Hi, this is Travis from the Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this clip on the Political Voices Network.
Good morning, Steph. Happy Accountability Day.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry, what do you and Allison Gill and I get accused of selling hopium? Okay, well, everybody, take a big whiff. This is, I have to say, it is a magical time when you remember where you were for Donald Trump's first indictment. But this is probably only the beginning, isn't it? I mean, that's what's extraordinary, is all this crying and gnashing of teeth already. You're like, oh, this is day one, right?
It is. And it's interesting. I mean, it makes some chronological sense, right? This is the earliest crime that he committed. This was one that was designed to steal the presidency, deprive the American voters of the full value of their vote back in 2016 when he was a private citizen running for president. So chronologically, this is the first. Now, of course, he also committed crimes while president, and he committed crimes after he left office. And you know, I don't know that the rest of the indictments will play out chronologically, but, you know, if they do, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this. Obviously, what Dan Goldman just said, CNN, I guess, was reporting Donald Trump facing more than 30 counts related to business fraud in an indictment from Manhattan grand jury, according to two sources familiar with the case. The indictment has been filed under seal. Will be so obviously charges not publicly known at this time, as Dan just said. Trump will be arraigned. I guess we're hearing Tuesday. So what do you make of that? I mean, obviously it's being reported. I know Tristan Snell said, according to CNN, 34 counts in the Trump indictment. This is way more than expected. If this is correct, it could mean the indictment covers far more than the Stormy Daniels hush money, like Karen McDougal hush money or other hush money catch and kill cases. Good time to note that David Pecker, head of the company that owns the National Enquirer, longtime Trump ally, testified twice to the grand jury. Reports out indicate today that witnesses in the case were questioned about McDougal, who got $150,000 hush money from Trump. My hunch for a while, given Pecker's involvement in the drawn-out timetable of the indictment, plus the 20 interviews of Michael Cohen with the DA, showed that something far larger than Stormy might be in the works. Might still be wrong, of course, but 34 counts is a lot. What is your take on what the reporting thus far?
Yeah, you know, when it comes to Donald Trump committing crimes, I mean, he never was a one-off, right? He's lived a life of crime. And, you know, just looking at the Stormy Daniels hush money payment, that was a conspiracy. We know it was a conspiracy that included Donald Trump and Michael Cohen. Did it include David Pecker? Did it include Alan Weisselberg? We do know Pecker was in the business, in the habit of running these catch and kill operations. Why? To assist Donald Trump in his election pursuits. So it doesn't surprise me at all. I've been saying for quite a while, you know, if Alvin Bragg indicts Donald Trump, it is not going to be a standalone misdemeanor falsifying business records case. It's going to involve lots of charges. It's going to involve felony charges. And if the CNN reporting is accurate, 34. I think when it's unsealed and we all get to read it for ourselves on Tuesday, you know, it's going to kind of knock our justice socks off.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and by the way, I don't know if you've seen this reporting. Robert Costa said sources familiar with the investigations tell CBS tonight that Bragg has some documents that have been uncovered during the probe that are not yet known to the public / been reported, both financial records and communications between key figures, and will use these as well as testimony. I mean, the mind does kind of reel, doesn't it, what we're going to see Tuesday?
Yeah, and we'll know soon enough, and then hopefully other indictments will be soon to follow. But, you know, if we pull back to the 30,000-foot overview, I mean, the reason yesterday was so important, Steph, is because never again can a president or a former president rest comfortably in the belief that he can commit crimes with impunity. Because before yesterday, every president that committed crimes committed them with impunity. Those days are gone. The deterrent value for future.
Uh-oh.
Oh, God. Oh, no. This is not a time for Glenn Kirschner and Justice to freeze. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. I think everyone in the world is up using their internet. All right, go ahead, Glenn. Sorry. Little glitch. Go ahead.
Where'd you lose me, Steph?
I can't remember. Just say it all again.
No, I said that. Yeah, no, the reason this is so important. Yesterday was so important. Frankly, even more important than a conviction of Donald Trump is because never again can a president or a former president rest comfortably in the belief that they can commit crimes with impunity. That ended yesterday.
Thank you.
The
Someone
deterrent
said,
value of that for future presidents is huge. It's everything.
thank you. Some right winger said, this is it. Now we've crossed the Rubicon. And I was like, good. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, did you mean that in a bad way? I mean, yes, we've crossed the Rubicon that finally, after Nixon and God knows what else, we've said no one is above the law. We are a nation of laws, not men. I mean,
Yeah,
go ahead.
that no one is above the law saying
Yeah.
was all but dead. It was, in a coma. And this indictment breathes new life into the American promise that no one is above the law, because now we have a concrete example of it. The indictment is everything. The conviction will also be very satisfying, and the convictions will come. Just like I've been saying all along, Steph, we've been talking about this for years. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't happen. It will happen. It has happened, and it's about to happen again and again and again.
Yeah. Yeah. What is your take on Alan Weisselberg? Is that any factor in this? I know we're reading tea leaves, but he obviously got rid of his Trump organization lawyers. Yeah. I thought the lawyer I heard he got is a racketeering specialist of some sort. What do those tea leaves tell you?
So it's an open question, but I think it can only be a good thing in the long run. The old lawyers were reportedly fired or were actually pulled back by the Trump organization because they weren't Trumpy enough. They were working too hard, apparently, to protect at least some of Alan Weisselberg's rights and not working hard enough to protect the rights of Donald Trump. But, Steph, it always struck me as pretty cruddy that Alan Weisselberg had 1 foot in the prosecutor's office and 1 foot in the Trump organization. He was still an employee. He was getting bonuses. They threw him a birthday party after he pleaded guilty, and he was testifying against the very organization that was paying him and supporting him and employing him. That stinks. Well, hopefully now, with this new lawyer, Seth Rosenberg, he was a former assistant district attorney at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. He's a former federal prosecutor at the Southern District of New York. He then went into private practice and did 25 years as a white-collar defense attorney. Hopefully, he now has his client's best interest at heart. And when Alan Weisselberg is released from Rikers, I am quite sure Alvin Bragg is going to say, hey, Alan, we got more charges waiting for you. How'd you like that 5-month bit you just did? Want to do another one? Or now, do you want to take that 1 foot out of the Trump organization and plant both feet with us on the side of justice at the district attorney's office?
Yeah. Glenn, just curious what your take is on all this that happened. Obviously, there's Jeffrey Berman wrote a book, obviously about them not prosecuting. Alvin Bragg took a lot of heat, but here he is. I kept thinking of you about someone's got to take the maiden voyage. Well, he will go down in history as the one. He's the one that took the maiden legal voyage. What is your take on what happened and why in this whole time frame?
Yeah. First of all, I think the country owes a debt of gratitude to Alvin Bragg for ultimately stepping up and breaking this important legal barrier. I hope other prosecutors will rally to his support. Now, that doesn't mean, Steph, that they will make different prosecutorial decisions. But if there's been a hesitancy because nobody wanted to be the first one to take the maiden legal voyage against a criminal former president, I'm hoping that maybe Fani Willis will now be prepared to move out and drop an indictment on Donald Trump. Hopefully Jack Smith will also be prepared to drop a federal indictment on Donald Trump, because the more indictments, frankly, I think the more you can diffuse the anger and the white hot glare that is now going to be focused like a laser beam on Alvin Bragg and his office and his staff, not only to their, emotional detriment, but to their safety. They're going to have safety concerns now.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Doesn't this also turn up the heat on DOJ with this whole, why wasn't this prosecuted, federally at SDNY? Why was this? We know that, Bill Barr is the reason it was dropped.
Yeah.
But
it was the Trump Justice Department that said basically, catch and kill this case. Do not let this hush money series of crimes visit Donald Trump. only the other co-conspirator, the lesser co-conspirator, Michael Cohen. They caught and killed this prosecution. So I am glad that, and it will turn up the heat on DOJ.
But my point is, why didn't Merrick Garland's DOJ pick it up? Alvin Bragg obviously did when we thought that was dead on the state level.
I don't know. I mean, the more I step back from what we've seen from Merrick Garland over the past 2 years, I think the Department of Justice may have been all consumed by going after those 1,000 folks who attacked the Capitol. They have another 1,000 arrests, we've learned, in the offing. And I don't think they were able to multitask. I think they were, stuck in the mindset that the way we investigate these things is we start at the bottom and then we build our way up. And they got stuck at the bottom, in part because I think they were overwhelmed, and in part because I think Merrick Garland was too much judge and not enough aggressive prosecutor, when what our nation needed was the most aggressive prosecutor, but also the most ethical prosecutor. He may have had the ethical piece. He didn't have the aggressive piece.
Yeah. Real quick, this pathetic grandstanding by Ron DeSantis. I mean, obviously, one of Trump's lawyers already said he's going to turn himself in Tuesday, right? So Ron DeSantis says this completely, unconstitutional, whatever thing. Joyce Vance said, lots going on here. It's empty posturing since Trump's lawyers said he'll turn in, but the appeal to anti-Semitism, the Soros reference should give every Jewish voter and anyone concerned about hate reason to reject DeSantis. Believe them when they show you who they are. I mean, it's obvious, just obviously pathetic grandstanding. I mean, but do you think, again, it's hard to predict what Donald Trump's going to do? Is that going to give him an opening for more of to create a spectacle?
His lawyer gave an interview, I think last night or this morning, Joe Tacopino. I mean, when you look at his Wikipedia page, he's a businessman, he's a lawyer, he's a soccer team owner, which is what you want in the finest criminal defense attorney. You want to make sure he owns a soccer team or two. But he said, look, Trump is going to turn himself in on Tuesday. In fact, he said, and I quote, he's not going to hole up in Mar-a-Lago. Yeah. But here's what I actually love about the lawlessness and the unconstitutionality of what DeSantis did. There is a clear line of demarcation that has now been drawn. And on one side are the folks who care about the rule of law, and on the other side of that line are the lawless. And DeSantis and Lindsey Graham and Lil Josh Hawley and weak Mike Pence, they are among the lawless. They've planted their feet firmly on the side of the line that lawlessness is fine in the quest for power. And then the rest of us, the folks who care about the rule of law, are on the other side of that line. This is an important line to keep our eye on because it will help guide the upcoming elections. Remember who was lawless. Ron DeSantis said, I will violate the Constitution to help out a criminal. I'll be an accessory after the fact. I'll be complicit. I'll obstruct justice if it will win me even 3 more votes. That is dangerous to the future of America. That's why nobody should vote for Ron DeSantis.
Yeah. Speaking of Pence, so that's a big deal that he's been obviously ordered to testify. I think you've always said this, that, he can keep trying to appeal, but he's going to have to testify, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. He will go in the grand jury. He will be placed under oath, and he will be compelled to testify about all of Donald Trump's crimes. And because he's a direct witness, he has direct evidence of the words that came directly out of Donald Trump's mouth that will prove not only Donald Trump's criminal conduct, but importantly, Donald Trump's criminal intent. Man, things go from bad to worse for Donald Trump. His lawyer testified against him, Evan Corcoran, and that's going to hurt. His vice president is going to have to testify against him. Who knows what will happen with Mark Meadows? He will either testify or he'll become a defendant. Yeah. And so things are moving.
As we always say, justice seems like it's never coming, and then it comes all at once. There's a picture of you and Harry Dunn at the Bruce Springsteen concert. You look like the bouncers of justice.
Although I look like I'm about 4'10" because Harry's like
huge.
8'14". He's enormous.
8'14".
I love Harry. Harry comes to our justice gatherings in D.C. every August. He's there, and Fanone's there, and Ganell's there, and Eric Swalwell made an appearance via Zoom last time. So I love Harry Dunn. He is an American hero.
Democracy warriors. Love you, Glenn. What a great day to have you on.
Love you, Steph. Happy Accountability Day, everybody.
That's how I knew there was a God, because it happened on a Thursday, right before my Friday. Glenn Kirschner. Love you.
Hey all, Glenn Kirschner here. I hope you'll join me on my new audio podcast, Justice Matters. I'll be using my 30 years as a federal prosecutor and Army JAG to unpack, break down, and explain the legal issues of the day, particularly where the legal intersects with the political. Please look for Justice Matters with Glenn Kirschner wherever you generally get your podcasts.